Rebbitzin Hobby, Tanya, ladies, friends, all, good evening. The acoustics are amazing.
You're standing on top of an episode.
It is an honor and privilege to be here with you tonight. It is a treat to be in the company of such special ladies. Each of you have been so warm and welcoming, so thank you for that. And I'm inspired by the leadership and dedication of Rebbitzin Hobby. Hobby, you're a woman of action, on a mission to make this world a better place. Hobby, you are more powerful than you know, and you are beautiful the way you glow. With attention to detail, tremendous energy and warmth, you and your family give people a love and zest for life, and I'm just inspired and awed by what you have created here in Cheadle of making it a greater and even better place. The audience speaks volumes and your sound of ovation was wonderful. A man wakes up one morning and tells his wife, "I love you, darling." She says, "Sweetheart, if you truly love me, shout it out to the whole world." And he turns to her and says, "Darling, I just did. You are my whole world." Hollywood's depiction of happily ever after couples has set the bar very high. We all have a mental image of an adoring husband and a wife who are just meant for each other. This idyllic couple instinctively understands each other's feelings, and their romance never fades. We've all heard that life isn't the movies or a romance novel, and we acknowledge the truth of this statement. Yet, deep down, we still entertain the hope that perhaps we can be the exception to the rule. The reality is that yes, there are soulmates, husband and wives who are intended for each other, but that alone doesn't guarantee a smooth marriage. No marriage has ever survived on passion and love alone. The erroneous assumption that this may be the case has unfortunately destroyed many salvageable marriages. Maintaining a successful and harmonious marriage involves work, commitment, and dedication. A strong, healthy relationship can be one of the best supports in life. Good relationships improve all aspects of your life, strengthening your health, your mind, and your connections with others. However, if the relationship isn't working, it can also be a tremendous drain and a lot of baggage. Hopefully it's your husband. You already have some good things to offer. Everyone's relationship is unique, and people come together for many different reasons, but there are some things that good relationships do have in common. Knowing the basic principles of a healthy relationship can keep them meaningful, fulfilling, and exciting throughout your life. There was once a wealthy man who had an interesting custom. His home was always open, and he would invite the poor people in the village to eat with him. He would ring a tiny crystal bell, and the servant would appear with food, and they would all eat a very fine meal. At the end of every meal, he would lay out his finest silverware and utensils and invite each guest to choose from among them a gift to take home. One day, a poor man from a neighboring village received an invitation to this wealthy man's house. He was clearly excited. When it came time for this poor man to make his request, he didn't ask for the obvious things like a goblet or a decanter. Instead, he asked for the little crystal bell. The wealthy man felt that it was a strange request and not a very useful item for a poor man who had no servants of his own. Nevertheless, he gave that guest what he asked for. The poor man, with great anticipation, returned to his own village, and the next day he invited all of his neighbors to a feast at his house. He set out 2 long wooden tables and sat down to wait for his guests and made a great ceremony of ringing it. Everyone waited. Nothing happened. He rang it again. Still nothing happened. No servants appeared. No platters of food arrived. Nothing. The poor man was humiliated. Red with indignation, he left his bewildered guests and ran all the way back to the wealthy man's house. "You tricked me," he cried. "You switched bells on me. You did not give me your bell." "Of course I did," said the wealthy man. "I gave you the same very bell that I used yesterday to summon my servants." The poor man was livid with rage. "Why then," he demanded, "did no one appear when I rang the bell?" In our relationships, often we are like the poor man. We ring the bell and nothing happened, and then we wonder who switched the bell on us. Our relationships start in one way, and over time they turn to another. According to the Talmud, 40 days before a child is born, a heavenly voice announces the identity of this soul's mate. While the soul of this predestined couples are eminently compatible, this does not mean that their temperaments and habits are matching. Marriage involves constant effort to ensure that the couple's physical and emotional sides are as harmonious as their souls, which according to the Kabbalah are really two halves of one whole. And that is why a Jewish wedding is such a happy event. It's lost and found, coming together. Human intimacy is a primary force in the lives of married couple. It is the unique language and expression of the love that they share. A strong relationship between husband and wife is not only the backbone of their own family, but it is integral to the world at large. For the blessings of trust, stability, continuity, and ultimately community all flow from the commitment they have to each other and to a joint future. When there is love between a couple, it does not stay contained in the bedroom. It spills over to the house, making the children happy, confident, and secure. The love does not stay contained in that house. From the house, it spreads to the block and spills over to the shul, and ultimately spills over to the community and the world at large. God needs our love. He depends so much on the love between spouses. If he wants this world to improve and to be better, he needs the positivity which stems from the holy love of a husband and wife. The Torah ascribes utmost importance to maintaining peaceful, loving relationships between a couple. No effort is spared in the attempt to achieve this goal. And in the words of the Talmud, great is peace between husband and wife. A prime example of this is the high priority assigned to preserving marital peace. Honesty and integrity, which are normally values that are never to be violated, are suspended for the sake of ensuring peace between a married couple. God himself established this precedent. A few weeks ago, we read that Sarah was informed that she and Abraham would be blessed with a child at their advanced age. She incredulously exclaimed, "But how? My husband is old." When God subsequently repeated her words to Abraham, he tactfully changed her words to say, "And I am old." Ernie and Esty have a big argument, and they stop speaking to each other. Then one day, Ernie realizes he needs his wife's help. He has an early morning flight to catch, and he needs her to wake him up. However, he still won't speak to her, so he leaves a note on her pillow. "Please wake me up at 5 a.m. I have a plane to catch." Next morning, he wakes to the shock that it's already past 9. He finds a note next to his bed. "It's 5 a.m. Wake up." Sometimes it feels as if our marriage has more issues than a magazine and we want to cancel our subscription. Marriage comes with bumps and sometimes mountains, and sometimes bumps which seem to be mountains. No two people are alike. Every person is a product of a combination of genetics, past experiences and unique talents and potentials, and their particular part of God. Thus, a relationship which by definition involves more than one person is always a tricky proposition. You can't have a relationship without a fight, but we need to ensure that our relationship is worth the fight. Yes, maintaining a happy relationship requires work, but this is what makes the relationship so meaningful and beautiful. It brings out the noblest of human qualities, the willingness to transcend one natural self and focus on the greater good. The ability to give is one of the greatest gifts that we have been gifted. The ability to see the larger picture is the key to a happy marriage. So you ask yourself, which issues are non-negotiable and which are minor irritants? An honest evaluation will reveal that often the issues which are the causes of contention and discord are relatively minor. Compromise and the ability to remain focused on the important matters can solve the overwhelming majority of issues. At times, however, the gulf which separates the husband and wife is too great to be bridged with their own powers. Neither can relate to the other's needs. At this point, the involvement of an objective third party is needed. Ideally, the arbiter should be a therapist, a counselor, or another qualified individual who possesses strong moral values, and sometimes even Torah knowledge is very helpful for our background. The Torah does provide us with a shining example to emulate. Aaron, the high priest, is described as a pursuer of peace, a marriage counselor par excellence. Despite his busy responsibilities in the sanctuary, and notwithstanding his prestigious position of the high priest of Israel, which was a lot of people at that time, he would personally visit couples who were marred in marital difficulties. He would attempt to dissuade them from divorce, explaining to them the dramatic consequences of such action, consequences which cannot always be envisaged beforehand. He also had another tactic, which he would use to bring together quarreling people. He would approach one party and report how remorseful the other one was. He so desires to mend the relationship, but is lacking the courage to do so. Aaron would then proceed to the other party and repeat the same lines. Next time the two met, they would embrace and bury the hatchet. Now, whether either of these tactics will work in any particular case depends on the specific circumstances involved. But the lesson, however, is crystal clear. It is our responsibility to do all within our power to heal relationships. Sadly, so many marriages and relationships are destroyed by well-intentioned family or friends of the husband and wife who offer their helpful advice, their 2 cents. They care so much and cannot bear seeing their loved one going through such misery that they advise them to cut and run. They commiserate with their friend or relative and thus reinforce the bitter feelings. Hard as it may be, we are not being a friend by taking sides. We are actually sometimes causing irreversible damage. If we have nothing to say which will benefit the relationship, then we must keep our silence. Of course, the exception to the rule is an instance where abuse is involved. In such a case, it is a mitzvah to extricate the abused spouse from a harmful setting. However, before intervening, great care should be taken to ascertain that it indeed is an abusive situation. If there is doubt, approach your rabbi or another wise individual or therapist with experience in this field and allow him or her, an impartial party, to render a decision. A woman accompanied her husband to the doctor's office. Following her husband's checkup, the doctor called the wife into his office to speak to her privately. He said, "Your husband is suffering from a very severe stress disorder. If you do not do the following, your husband will surely deteriorate and die." Each morning, instructed the doctor, fix him a very healthy breakfast. Be pleasant at all times. For lunch, make him a very nutritious meal, and for dinner, prepare him a feast that he enjoys. Have the dinner waiting for him at the table, hot as he arrives home from work. Do not burden him with chores and ask him, honey, how was your day? Don't discuss your problems with him. It will only make his stress worse. No nagging is allowed. You must also compliment him at least 5 to 6 days, 5 to 6 times a day, telling him how brilliant and talented he is and how he is the greatest man in the whole world. And most importantly, never disagree with him. If you can do this for the next 10 months to a year, the doctor says, I think your husband will regain his health completely. On the way home, the husband asks his wife, what? You were with the doctor for so long. What did the doctor say? Well, the wife says, he said to me, you're surely going to die. Thank God we don't have to literally do all the above. Here are some tips that I have gleaned with the help of others over the time to keep relationships happy and loving. Strengthen your love. Strengthen our love. Love is the expression of many thoughtful acts of kindness. The Jewish word for love is ahava, which comes from the word give. It doesn't actually mean love, it means give. Love comes from giving to another. As you allow yourself to become vulnerable and you share yourself with another, this is where love begins. But in the busyness of life, we must find small ways to strengthen our love by staying involved with each other and making sure we are not just crossing paths, cohabiting peacefully, sort of like roommates, but are constantly communicating and working and dreaming to ensure that we are on a journey of life together. You must have your partner side by side. It's important to keep intimacy alive. We live in an age of revelation. Facebook statuses updated by the minute. Gossip magazines compete for saucy scoops. Underwear is overwear, and privacy is so passé. When a popular culture reeks from, if you've got it, flaunt it, can we really expect people to have enough sensitivity to keep their family lives private? Intimacy is the ability to share our dwelling place, that private place that exists within each of us, that is personal, sacred, and deep. Until relatively recently, everyone knew what an intimate subject was. It was private, personal, and not for public consumption. If someone tried to talk about intimate feelings in conversation, everyone blushed, and the subject was dropped. People understood their borders, and they knew instinctively where to stop. But today, we talk about our need for intimacy, our lack of intimacy, our intimacy crisis, and often we don't have the vaguest idea what we're even talking about. Like sexuality, the ability to be intimate and the ways of being intimate have to be protected and cultivated. In life, as God intended it, intimacy has to be nurtured, preserved, and maintained. Intimacy happens at many different dimensions of a couple's relationship, from physical to the spiritual and all shades in between. But we must protect what is sacred, what is ours, and to keep hold to our own personal space in this day and age is really something unique, and it is something to be encouraged. Quality time together. As time goes by, children, demanding jobs, long commutes, different hobbies, and other obligations can make it hard to find time together with your loved one, especially with one of these. It's critical for your relationship, though, to make time for yourselves. If you don't have quality time, communication and understanding do start to erode. Simple ways to connect as a couple and rekindle love could be committing to spend quality time together on a regular basis. Even during very busy and stressful times, a few minutes of really sharing and connecting can help to keep bonds strong. Find something that you enjoy doing together, whether it's a shared hobby, a dance class, daily walk, or even just sitting over a cup of coffee in the morning without your phones. Try to go to bed together at the same time. It's just good to unwind after a long day. Share jokes and surprises with each other. Picking up your husband's favorite magazine, or packing his suitcase, or for a wife to find a surprise note in her pocket, or for him, goes a very long way. Never take them for granted, and never stop communicating. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were one person, and they were created back to back. And then God split them, and they became two separate individuals who could now communicate face to face. Good communication is a fundamental part of a healthy relationship. As long as we are communicating, we can work through most problems that we're facing. But often, the most important thing in communication is not hearing what is said, but is hearing what isn't said. A man decides to sell some of his stuff and puts an ad in the local paper. Complete set of Encyclopedia Britannica. Some of you might not even know what that is from the younger generation, including me. I do remember them. Encyclopedia Britannica, 45 volumes, special college edition. All in excellent condition, no longer needed. Recently married, and my wife knows everything. The Torah commands us to affirm our fundamental relationship with God by repeating twice daily the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Listening and understanding is the way that we become one with God. It is also the way that we become one with another person. Listening is a special skill that requires practice and concentrated effort for most. A friend recently told me that the letters that spell listen are the same letters that spell silent. Listening means suspending judgment, commentary, and advice. In place is validation, respect, and understanding. When partners can do this with each other, they can take chances and share their innermost desires, fears, and dreams. It's important to practice give and take. They say marriage is about giving and giving, or rather, marriage is give and take. Give lots of things and take nothing for granted. The most potent immunization medicine for safeguarding a healthy relationship is selfless, cheerful giving. The more a husband and wife live by this value, the healthier and more satisfying their relationship will be. And if there are children in the home, they too will directly benefit by the peace and harmony that will be found in the home. They say the greatest gift that you can give to your child to build their self-esteem is a healthy and loving marriage. Take a pen and paper. Write at the top, I feel appreciated and cared for when you ... List those actions your partner can take that make you feel appreciated and cared for, and then exchange the lists. Try to do at least one item each day as a gift to your partner. Someone wise once said, marriage is not for you. What they meant was, don't marry solely to make yourself happy, but rather realize that your happiness comes through making someone else happy too. Life is not like Costco, it's my favorite shop. If it doesn't make you happy, you can't take it back and get a new one. A true marriage is not about you, it's about the person you love, their wants, their needs, and their hopes and dreams. Finally, learn how to respectfully resolve conflict. When you fight, do it right. But try not to use words like always, never, and you always do this. Speak in first person. Keep away from bringing old arguments back into the arena, even if it is about the in-laws. And the issues have still not been resolved. Now is not the time. Successful giving requires that you know readers. We all know how it goes. The husband brings his wife a thoughtful birthday gift. After opening the box, she begins to cry. The startled husband says to his wife, "I thought you wanted a new toaster." She replies, "Yes, but not for my birthday." She bought him a beautiful designer tie because she loves clothes. He doesn't like clothing. For him, dressing is just a chore, especially formal attire. She was hurt that he didn't appreciate her gift. He bought her an exercise bike because he knows being overweight is unhealthy and that her weight bothers her. She is insulted that he is calling attention to her weight, and she may even conclude that he is bothered by her appearance and is being critical of her. Can we all relate to the above? Sometimes I do feel that we never give men a real chance. If I was speaking to them, I would say that was it. Expect up and downs. The reality of life is that it is full of up and downs. No 2 days will be the same, and the challenges of life may throw us in different directions. In my racquetball lessons, my coach always says, form good habits. Always be prepared with your racket in hand. With effort and practice comes experience, which will one day make you a champion. The same is true with life. Things change so quickly. We need to constantly reevaluate our situations and prepare appropriately. I think weekly meetings are so beneficial to just go through what's happening. You have a baby, life has changed tremendously. 6 months later, your kid is potty trained. That's another thing. Life is changing. You need to constantly reevaluate. Where are we holding? What has changed? What is needed now? And this is what helps to limit the stress and keep situations more smooth. And as women, this is our mission, to be the anchor of the home. But don't worry, we women are like tea bags. You can't tell how strong we are until you put us in hot water. Life is full of hot water, but we can deal with the challenges if we are committed to our spouse and our marriage. The goal is to remain focused on the same destination, which was established when both parties did enter the relationship in love. There's nothing quite as dramatic as that transition into marriage. Yesterday, I was alone. Today, I am married. New love tingles with energy. The first few times you hear "I love you," you just don't take that for granted. But there are two sensations which emanate from the bride and groom. The first, I am grateful to have my spouse in my life. And the second, I am grateful for being able to experience the pleasure that comes from marriage. What's so mysterious is how quickly these sensations can vanish. Excitement deflates like a punctured balloon. Two people can be great together, compatible on many levels, but as time progresses, it becomes harder and harder to retain the dramatic excitement. The feeling of "I can't believe you are my spouse" is now a vague memory. Instead, it's like, "Of course you're my spouse, but please be a better one." How does God expect us to stay married if He programmed us with the pleasure of a fresh relationship? There is a manual for this program. A manual allows us to get the maximum out of the product, and the Torah is our manual. In it, God tells us to keep the cycle of family purity. The laws of family purity prevent the relationship between husband and wife from becoming stale and unexciting. The number one complaint of marriage is the lack of excitement and boredom. The physical separation mandated at the onset of a woman's period by the Torah law allows the couple to refresh their romance and passion on a monthly basis. Even without the spiritual benefits offered by family purity, jump-starting your relationship with a mini honeymoon each month is a great way to maintain marital love and harmony. During the 2 times in a woman's cycle, we focus and strengthen 2 aspects of the relationship. During the separation period, known as Nida, we still talk about our day, our dreams, our goals, and we even plan tomorrow, but we do not experience physical intimacy. It's almost like dating. You relate mentally, yet you yearn for a closer physical relationship, and it's just not available at that time. And then When you go to the mikvah, we can reunite. Marital relations resume. The first touch, after 2 weeks of separation, is charged with sensation. There's an innocent excitement, even after all those years together. You walk around with a secret twinkle in your eye the morning after that nobody knows about, just you two. So God says, for 12 days out of the month, you will not be physically available to each other. You just cannot take your relationship for granted. And then, when you immerse in the mikvah, you have the opportunity to feel like a bride again, every month. For those of you who have not made a lifelong commitment at the onset of married life, it's never too late to begin following the laws of family purity. Similarly, while observance should ideally be continuous, one should not allow a lapse to deter further commitment. And many couples do use the mikvah before trying to conceive, to give their child the best start in life. The practice is not contingent on the observance of other precepts in the Torah. Mikvah is not, as is often thought, the exclusive domain of the strictly observant and Orthodox. Try it for 3 months. You will notice the benefits instantly. I almost want to offer you a money-back guarantee. Once a lady has passed through menopause, she has the golden opportunity of going to the mikvah once. And this is enough. And when you see the mikvah tonight, you will want to go. How simple it is to go to the mikvah once and know you can enjoy the rest of your married life in spiritual purity. And it even brings blessings into your home, working retroactively. You have nothing to lose. It's a win-win situation. And this way, each woman can link herself to an ongoing tradition that has spanned the generations. Standing here at this auspicious moment for the Cheadle Jewish community is both inspiring and daunting. I am inspired by the dedication, generosity, and commitment of this wonderful community. And I am daunted by the thought that there is nothing which will affect the future of Cheadle Jewish community more than the beauty of this building here tonight. A community with a mikvah has life to it. It creates vibrancy, which infuses the community as a whole. A mikvah is a priceless gift to a community. Ever since the beginning of time, the gift of the still, calm, and spiritual waters of the mikvah have imbued and preserved the Jewish people and allowed one generation after another to clutch onto the traditions of our people and pass on the Star of David to the next generation. Jewish married life and the birth of future generations in accordance with halakha, the Jewish law, is possible only when there is accessibility to the mikvah. It is no exaggeration, therefore, to state that the mikvah is the touchstone of Jewish life and the portal to a Jewish future. To conclude, I'd like to share a personal story with you. I remember as a young girl coming downstairs one evening only to find that my mother had gone out. I asked my father where my mom had gone, and why she had gone on her own. Where had she gone and why hadn't she taken me along? He gently explained that she had gone to a special ladies' club, and that one day when I was married, I too would be able to attend. As I was getting married, I knew that the mikvah was a step on my checklist. Yet, it was more than that. It was an exclusive ladies' club that I would finally be able to join. Weeks of preparing, planning, and studying had all come down to the night before my wedding, and I wanted my mother to be there as I began this special journey in my life and my relationship with God and the Jewish people. We were escorted to a special room reserved for brides who are entering the club for the very first time. I was all ready to jump into the warm, inviting water, and the mikvah attendant took a few minutes to explain to me that my time in the water would be particularly auspicious time for prayer. Mikvah comes from the Hebrew word tikva, a time of hope. Tremendous potential for our hopes and dreams to be fulfilled, and that I should enter with the proper concentration. She also explained some of the deeper meanings behind the journey that I still think about each month when I go. my mother beaming proudly the entire time as she waited in the waiting room for me to come out, so happy to be initiating her eldest daughter into the finest, most special of clubs. The water felt magical. It took all of 30 seconds to be finished dunking, but it was the most special and intimate 30 seconds I had ever experienced in my life until then, as a 20-year-old girl. As recommended by the mikveh attendant, I spent a few more minutes alone in the water, praying to God and feeling closer than I ever had before. And I felt like I suddenly knew so much more about life, about my Creator, than I ever could have had the chance to before. I felt like my soul had been cleansed, even more deeply than my body. After drying off and getting dressed, my mother met me outside to bestow the parental blessing on me, praying that I should be like the matriarchs, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. She sobbed as she said it, for the moment was bittersweet for her. It was bitter because in just a few short hours, she would be giving me away, sending me off to begin a new life with my husband. Bitter because being a woman in her 50s, she knew that as I began an affiliation with this wonderful club that will please God last many years, her own trip to the ladies' club was numbered. It was sweet because she had been privileged to experience this special event with me, her eldest daughter, just us, no husband and no brothers. But most of all, it was sweet because of her past. You see, the chain of our mothers had been broken for a few generations. My mother returned to the ladies' club, learning and following all the laws and visiting a heated private mikveh, unlike her ancestors in Iran. She rekindled that lost flame and now knows that she has also successfully transmitted it to the next generation. There is tikva, hope, that the break that happened before will, with God's help, never happen again. She felt the pride of a mother who had done something right as she watches her daughter eagerly follow in her footsteps. We both felt connected to our mothers from generations past who guarded this club and its regulations with the most intense ferocity. Tonight, I am blown away, Ravi. It's my innermost hope and dream that what you've created here will continue to grow from strength to strength. And I hope that all of you together here will feel the tremendous privilege of enhancing our relationships. Relationships are an investment. The more you put in, the more you can get back. And I thank you for the opportunity of coming here this evening and inviting me and allowing me to enhance my own relationship along the way. But even more, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be part of the history of the Cheadle Jewish community and being present for the pre-launch of this holy, most beautiful building. In the words of King David, Yehi shalom b'chelech, shalva ba'armonosayach. Let there be peace among your multitudes, tranquility within your places. As a woman leaves the mikvah each month, she is renewed and invigorated with peace. With new beginnings come new chances, opportunities, and optimism. As each of us leave the mikvah this evening, we need to be re-inspired with peace. Peace is not something you wish for. It's something you make, it's something you do, and something you are, and something that you give away. May each and every one of us see peace in our lives and tranquility in our homes, enhancing all our relationships all around. Amen.
Russell, that was, wow, that's what I can say. We're very fortunate to have with us Karen. We've got some questions that we're going to just pass around that people who are shy. Karen's given us some, like, of the most asked questions. She's going to say an intro, then people can ask some questions, and then if anybody's brave enough and wants to ask her some questions, or Russell, they're welcome to. Okay, so Karen.
What she said, most of what you said, what you said in somewhere along the line, people support and go with. I mean, I don't want to say too much about me. I'm a relationship therapist. I also see many individuals, teenagers. I'm a psychotherapist, and I have a therapy centre in Hale, not very far away. In fact, two therapists who work there are here tonight, Louise and Sharon. So really, I'd like to just give it over to you and see what you would like me to respond to, really. Who would like to start? Yeah, I mean, I suggested a few possible questions. It's really...
This one is, people talk about mutual respect in a marriage as being important. How do you understand it?
Yeah, because that is a very... I see you referenced that right at the beginning of your wonderful talk. Well, okay. So, I think respect, my experience of others and my own experience in my own relationships, I think of respect as being the willingness to stop and be still and quiet and see if you can inhabit the inner world of the other, which is easier said than done. I mean, a lot of what Rochels has said is actually relatively uncomplicated if you're quite a stable, grounded person, but lots of people aren't, and a lot of the people that I meet have great difficulty doing some of the things that maybe you would find quite easy. So respect means having an ability to truly listen to somebody, and that's very, very difficult. We all know, I've got 3 grown-up sons actually, I'm sure most of you here have children, how difficult it is to listen to a child. It can be quite boring, can't it, to have a 7-year-old talking about Man United all the time, because I've got boys, I know that. And for us to go wash up and rubber gloves and dishwasher and say, yes, I know, yes, the offside rule is this and that. And we can do the same with our husbands and partners. But it's very, very difficult to put the stuff down and say, right, tell me what it is you want me to hear, and I'll listen to you. And tell me again. No, tell me again. I didn't get that bit. I understand a bit. Are you saying this? No, I didn't understand. Tell me again. And that is a skill that many people don't have. We all want to have it, but it's quite hard. So you can't have respect without a capacity, a mutual capacity, and that's often hard because one partner might have that capacity and the other partner doesn't. And interesting, we're quite, I mean, I don't like to stereotype races or religions or peoples, but I think we're quite a histrionic on the whole race of people. And then particularly, I mean, I had a histrionic father and 2 grandfathers who cried all the time. My father cried all the time. My father was, my mother was very stoical, and I'm quite strong and grounded. You know, so Jewish men can be quite, Semitic men actually, Arab men are the same, can be very over-emotional, and maybe women too. And you can't truly listen to somebody if you're in the middle of an emotional rant. So, you know, we have to learn to somehow ground ourselves, calm down, slow down, stop, and listen, and that's what I think mutual respect is. The other aspect of respect is entertaining the idea of difference, which is what you were talking about actually. You talked about how a love and passion cannot sustain a relationship, and that the bloom of the first bloom of love inevitably fades. It does. I mean, you know, neurobiologists think it's about a year or 2 at the most that we kind of have the falling in love part of our relationship, and after then it's damn hard work actually. It really is hard work. And the respect bit comes very importantly then, because we have to entertain the very important, the most important aspect of trying to see if we can make this into old age together. The idea of difference is, it's very, very different. You know, most of us are, I don't know whether you understand what narcissistic means, but most of us are fundamentally, we have a lot of narcissistic ideas or needs. We want to be mirrored by the other. We want the other to be like us, and it's very, very difficult. Even when you're as experienced in relationships as I apparently am, I'm on my second marriage, I have to say. I won't have another one, but it was difficult first for lots and lots of reasons. I know that it doesn't matter what those are. But, you know, I think what's challenging for everybody is to tolerate difference. Anyway, I've probably said enough about respect for that. There's lots I could say, but if I go off piece, just tell me. So, yeah.
You know when you go through ups and downs in your marriage,
Yeah.
and then sometimes you think, you know, sometimes you're really happy, and then sometimes you're really not. And then when you're not, and you've got children, you think, are you staying together because it will mortify your children to split up? Or, and then you work through it and then you're all right again. You know, when you dips up and down all the time. What generally is like the best thing to do? Do you think, you know, on a professional opinion, do you advise like to stay together for the children or to stay? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm coming from a different perspective to Rochelle, and I think that's actually great to have us both, you know, it's great that you're here, I'm not sure, so great I'm here. I think this has to be a very individual decision. I mean, my view, and I completely support Rochelle on this, I mean, for me, and I mean, it is personal, but I think it's probably most professionals would agree, I can imagine my colleagues here would agree, that there are some non-negotiables. I would not tolerate, personally I would not tolerate domestic violent marriage, one that is sexually abusive, in other words, marriage to bring the tone down here. So I think, you know, we all have to decide what are our non-negotiables. So I wouldn't suggest to anybody that they stay in a marriage where there is abuse going on, because I don't see how that can be good for the children. I have to say that I see a lot of adults who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s and sometimes 60s who wish their parents had split up when they were young. Because what they saw was a toxic relationship of either hostility or emotional abuse, so no physical stuff, but, you know, put-downs, coldness, withdrawal, punishing, punitive, coldness, manipulative. I mean, all of us can behave like that sometimes, but hopefully not as a general way of being. I mean, all of us can go cold and ignore and flounce and maybe shout and rage a bit, you know, but we're talking about a good enough relationship here. So I don't think people should stay together at any cost, no. But it has to be it's a very unique decision. Does that help, or do you want me to say something?
I was asking generally, you know, from sometimes from friends' experiences, from my own personal experience. You know, we all go through ups and downs.
We all
and
do,
sometimes
yeah.
you think, is there a cut-off point?
Well, that's always that is so often what brings people into therapy, individual therapy in couples. You know, when is enough enough? I mean, what Rochelle was saying about good community. I mean, that little. I feel loved and cared for when you. I give that as an idea to couples quite often to do, by the way. So I'm on the same page as you now, and you're on the same page as me. Yeah, sorry, I've lost my point.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
No.
No,
I'm menopausal. I start a sentence and then I get it. Yes, well, I mean, obviously it's very, very hard when you're in the middle of your own bubble to sometimes to see the trees, so to get an outside view.
Anybody got more questions of those papers?
Yeah.
Who has some of those papers we passed around to ask questions?
I will remember what I was going to say because it was something. No, I forgot.
Have you got one?
You were saying when people get to that stage where they then come and see you.
yes, it's about when is enough is enough, and what is, how much should I tolerate before I ditch this? I mean, it's very, very challenging. So that's why I say most women come to therapy because they're at a point where they really don't know whether to stay or go. But I know what I was going to say. Got it. Sorry, isn't it, of course? I always think, and this is personal, but maybe it's professional too, that if you can stay with the person you walk through the door with, and it's good enough, it's a better option, which I think is what you're saying.
I think what you said is correct. I don't think that you should tolerate abuse, and also sometimes it's very manipulative, which is abuse in some forms as well.
Yes.
I think that every situation, there's no black and white rule. And like we can't tell anybody here what to do. When we're standing here, it needs professional help to make a decision. But I do think that sometimes, in general, it is better for the kids to try and stay together. At least they're older and they move out. But then again, I also agree with you that many people that I've seen over the time that would have rather just had two separate parents living in separate homes. And I think that sometimes I do think that when I deal with people in my school, I sometimes think that you're not really doing your child a favor either. If you're sticking it out but fighting the whole entire time, it's also very dangerous.
There is something, and this might, I just want to say this, that there is something that might surprise you, and this is very much my experience of my practice, and people I know outside of my personal life. It's actually easier to split up when the children are small. The age group that really don't like it, are between about 13 and 18. 15 and 16-year-olds, people often think, oh, well, she's 15 now, she's 16, she's just done her A levels or GCSEs. Actually, it's they seem to take it much more badly, really. Children adapt very easily, providing that the relationship between the parents is respectful enough when they split up, children will get used to it. I'm not saying it's a great thing to do, but they will get used to it. So, anybody else? I want to say something about healthy conflict, but I'd like to hear the question.
I was just going to make a comment that I've got a relatively young married, young kids, but from my work experience and done some work in child psychiatry, and I work with children a lot as part of my job and with child anaesthetists. The children are the mirror of their parents. I mean, absolute mirror. Even when the parents don't see it, the children are there, you're doing the consult with the kid, the parents are there, and absolutely mirroring. And you can see, to some extent, I'm not saying we have this amazing vision, but you can see when there is tension or issues with the parent, the child is just not as communicative or as happy. And I think that, thank God I've not been in a situation yet where I need to think about what I would do if my husband and I were in an unhappy place. But I do think that the kids need happy and healthy relationships, and whether that's separate parents.
Modelling, they need it modelled.
They children are mirrors.
I think the attitude that stay together no matter what unless there's abuse. I'm not saying that, but I think that's a dangerous gift, because I think that what happens is the kid ends up being abused by an unhealthy atmosphere, even if it isn't undercurrents of sort of emotional abuse, just by that level of tension and discourse they can carry in.
One of the something that each partner needs, male and female, I think, to have a relatively successful marriage, one with enough harmony, enough good times, enough love to sustain this long relationship of decades. I mean, I think 100 years ago or so, marriages were 11 years in duration. People died. They died of childbirth, they died of war, they died of disease. Now our marriages could be 60, 70, maybe even 80 years. Well, not 80, but 60 years certainly is not unusual. It's a very, very big ask. What you need is, this is ideally, is you need each partner to have what we call a reflective capacity, the capacity to reflect on what the other says. And that comes back to active listening. So, how many of us know people, and maybe we've even done it ourselves, that try and get our needs met by screaming, yelling, shouting, hitting. And I'm not talking about, desperate, serious abuse. I mean, just banging, just hitting. Raging, threatening, bullying, or leaving. In other words, walking out the room rather than staying in the conflict. One of the things that I help couples to do is to understand the idea of healthy conflict, because we talk about conflict as being essential. You were saying you can't have a marriage without a fight, but many people don't know how to fight. They think fighting is leaving, screaming, shouting, bullying, even threatening to kill themselves if people are very dysfunctional, and believe me, it happens. There's quite a lot that we have to do as a couple, as individuals, to make this journey with another person.
What was the question you had?
My question was, is there such a thing as a perfect marriage?
I can't see how that can be true. No, because is there such a thing as a perfect person? And what is that? And that's a construct. I mean, I know what the question is, because I think I did. I get it out there.
I've got another one if you're right.
No, because a lot of people do exactly as you said, and you started near the beginning of your piece saying that we will go into our relationships, even people like me who know that it's not possible, hoping, somehow that the idealised idea, fantasy will come true. But it can't be possible, no. Because do you have a perfect relationship with your mother? Father? Child? Especially if you've got older children. It's not possible. Friend? It's just not possible.
A perfect relationship is just you and there's no perfect relationship. It just has to be you and your husband. So.
It is just the relationship you co-create, but I always say people co-create the marriages they have, so I don't go with blame. Yes.
I need to ask you this question.
Yes.
I married in my 20s and I am in my 40s now. I am not the same person.
Sure.
What I need and what I feel and what I think is not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
So I think I know your question, but ask it anyway.
No, I'm sure you know my question. So how do you?
Do you mean how do you grow together?
Yes.
How do you manage when you grow apart?
I know I changed a lot. My needs, everything, my thoughts, everything has changed.
Yeah.
And usually I think men.
Stay the same.
Set the tone here. We're back into communication and understanding what good communication is between partners. I mean, it could be, let's not make it about you, but it could be that two people have grown apart from each other and they really, for whatever reason, they decide for their family unit or for them, they just cannot hack it anymore together. There is too much difference. There isn't enough that bonds them together. So yeah, sometimes people's relationships do break up after 20, 30, 40 years of marriage. But I always hope that people will start with understanding how to communicate, which comes back to active listening. I call it responsibility, as in response hyphen ability, the ability to respond and to listen without, screaming, hitting, shouting.
I think it's mostly the patient, the patient that you had when you were 20s, or
the patience.
Yes, yeah. Or I don't know, you could put up with an outsider problem that comes to your marriage, and it's not from your marriage, but it's an outsider coming to your marriage. Then, and when you were younger, you could deal with it. But what do you do when you get older and the problem is not going away?
Well, okay. I mean, there's just one thing that, because we can't obviously get into anything that becomes too sort of personal here or specific, but I think it's really important that all of us have a wider community of support, and you have it in your community here, in your Cheadle community, and others are similar. You know, we need other people than our husbands, frankly, or partners to sustain us. I certainly believe that. I actually don't believe that the marital unit is the only important unit. Our friendships are, I believe, my friendships are very important with my female friends. And I've got some male friends, but they tend to be, you know, part of couples. I think to encourage and to build and to sustain and to continually grow our relationships are really important because they're sustaining to us when sometimes it's not working very well at home. But it comes down to talking, doesn't it, and communication and working out with your husband or anyone else's situation who might be similar to yours. You know, what can we do here to, you know, to find a way through? And sometimes there isn't one, and people do split up.
We've got one question over there.
Can I just say for 1 second, they say that relationships are that women marry their husband hoping that they will change, and men marry their wives hoping they'll never change.
There is quite a lot of that.
Final question.
Sorry, yeah, you wanted to ask.
First year of marriage is probably the most difficult year we have. And it's quite incredible because so many people used to say to me, how's married life? And what actually amazed me was before I was married, when you say to people, how's married life?